Boba Fett might be the galaxy's most famous bounty hunter, but he's not the best one. That title belongs to the man who came before him, the one who didn't just wear the armor, but defined it. Before Boba was a legend, Jango Fett was the original. The man every clone trooper in the Republic was modelled after. The soldier who fought Jedi hand-to-hand, negotiated with Sith Lords, and still found time to raise a son in the middle of galactic chaos. He wasn't a symbol. He was the standard. And yet history forgot him. Overshadowed by his own clone, reduced to a footnote in the story he helped create. But without Jango, there is no Boba. There's no clone army, no Order 66, no Empire at all. The galaxy we know only exists because one man made a deal that changed everything. Jango is the kind of character Star Wars rarely gives us. No force, no prophecy, no destiny. Just raw skill, tactical brilliance, and a will strong enough to rival entire governments. Meanwhile, Boba inherited the armor, but none of the depth. He lived in his father's shadow, trying to live up to a myth that was already complete. And in the end, all the reputation in the galaxy can't compete with the man who built it. In this video, we'll explore why Boba Fett isn't the best Fett, why Jango is smarter, deadlier, and far more important, and why the galaxy is still living in the aftermath of the original Mandalorian's legacy. Let's be honest, Boba Fett gets way too much credit. He's got maybe 6 minutes of screen time in the original trilogy, says 4 lines, and then gets eaten by a desert mouth with teeth. And somehow he became one of the most iconic characters in Star Wars history. But here's the truth. The guy who actually earned that reputation wasn't Boba. It was Jango, the father, the fighter, the man who literally changed the genetic makeup of the galaxy. Jango Fett isn't just another bounty hunter. He's the blueprint for an army, the Republic's secret weapon, and the spark that set off the Clone Wars. He's not just part of Star Wars history, he is the reason it exists. Without Jango, there's no Order 66, no Galactic Empire, no Darth Vader hunting Jedi across the stars. Every tragedy that followed started with a man in silver armor, making one deal on Kamino. And the difference between Jango and Boba isn't just in skill, it's in purpose. Jango fought for survival, legacy, and freedom. Boba fought for reputation. One built a galaxy, the other tried to live up to a myth. When you watch Attack of the Clones, Jango is calm, calculating, and frighteningly efficient. He takes on Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the best Jedi alive, and almost kills him. Boba, meanwhile, gets knocked into a sandpit by a blind guy holding a stick. What makes Jango fascinating is how deliberate he is. Every move he makes has intent. When Dooku recruits him as the clone template, it's not because of luck, it's because Jango's the best bounty hunter alive. He's not force-sensitive, he's not royal blood, he's just that good. And in a universe obsessed with chosen ones, that's refreshing. Jango earned everything he had through skill, grit, and a code all his own. And then there's the armor. The same Mandalorian steel everyone worships when Boba wears it. Except Jango's version is cleaner, faster, more advanced. He designed it for combat, not intimidation. The dual pistols, the jetpack, the flamethrower, it's not costume, it's craft. Jango's armor isn't legendary because of what it looks like. It's legendary because of what it's done. In a way, Boba's entire existence is built on his father's shadow. The most feared bounty hunter was literally born from the DNA of the man he could never surpass. And the irony is, the clone army, millions of Jangos, proved that his father was unstoppable, even after death. Jango didn't need a reputation to be feared. His work spoke for him. He was the quiet professional, the ghost in silver. Meanwhile, Boba became the brand. The thing about Jango Fett is that his legacy was too big for one lifetime. When the Kaminoans used him as the genetic source for the clone army, they didn't just copy his DNA, they copied his discipline, his precision, and his mentality. Every clone trooper, from Rex to Cody, owes their existence to him. And for a while that made the Republic unstoppable. Think about that. One man became the face of an army so massive, it spanned the galaxy. Every soldier, every victory, every casualty was stamped with Jango's identity. That's not fame, that's immortality. Even after his death, Jango's presence haunted every battlefield. He became a myth the galaxy didn't even know it was worshipping. But here's the tragic twist. His greatest creation became the instrument of galactic collapse. The clones he helped create were designed to bring order, but ended up enforcing tyranny. Jango was a man who valued freedom above all else, yet his legacy became the foundation of slavery to the Empire. It's poetic and horrifying all at once. Boba inherited none of that complexity. Sure, he had the same skills, but not the same vision. Jango fought for control over his own fate. Boba fought for survival in the chaos his father helped create. It's like watching the sequel to a masterpiece that doesn't understand the point of the original. And when you really look at the numbers, Jango's efficiency makes Boba look amateur. In Attack of the Clones, Jango takes down Jedi, fights Kenobi to a standstill, and survives until he's literally decapitated by one of the greatest duelists in history. Meanwhile, Boba spends half his career chasing targets that outsmart him, get away, or shoot him in the back. The Mandalorian had to rebuild his reputation decades later just to make him look competent again. Even the Kaminoans respected Jango. They built an entire cloning program around his genetic perfection. That's not fanboy myth. That's in-universe acknowledgement of his superiority. And Jango's one demand: a single unaltered clone to raise as a son. That's legacy done right. Not just legacy of blood, but of intention. He wasn't trying to create an empire or a cult. He just wanted to ensure that his line, his identity, and his will survived the chaos of the galaxy. That's not villainy, that's fatherhood twisted by circumstance. Boba inherited his father's armor, but not his understanding of why it mattered. Jango wore it to protect what he'd built. Boba wore it to remember what he'd lost. That's not the mark of equality, it's the mark of inheritance without comprehension. When you strip away the nostalgia and the merchandising, it's obvious. Boba Fett is famous, but Jango Fett is significant. Boba's cool factor comes from silence and style. Jango's comes from substance. He didn't just look dangerous, he was dangerous, and the galaxy never recovered from his existence. Every war, every trooper, every political shift in the prequel era can be traced back to him. He was the butterfly effect in Mandalorian armor, the mercenary who changed history without realizing it. And that's what makes him more compelling than any Jedi or Sith. Jango proved that one man, with enough skill and willpower, could rival the influence of entire orders. Meanwhile, Boba spent most of his life reacting to events instead of creating them. He didn't build systems, he inherited their wreckage. When Jango died, Boba didn't become a legend out of merit. He became one out of mourning. His life was defined by revenge, loss, and identity confusion. It's tragic, yes, but it's not greatness. Even the book of Boba Fett tries to give him depth, turning him into a reflective leader who wants to rule with respect instead of fear. But that's not the Boba we grew up fearing. It's a softened echo of Jango's authority, repackaged for nostalgia. The irony is that the show unintentionally proves this very point. Boba's story only works when it draws on his father's foundation. Jango was pragmatic, precise, and professional. He didn't need a gang, a reputation, or a throne. His loyalty was to himself and his code. And in the end, that's what made him dangerous to both sides. The Jedi couldn't control him, and neither could the Sith. He walked into the galactic chessboard and changed the rules by existing. Boba was a product of that rulebook. Jango was the author. Even Jango's death carries more weight than Boba's. He dies fighting Mace Windu head-on, a duel that cements him as one of the only non-Force users to go toe-to-toe with a Jedi Master, and almost win. That's not luck, that's legacy meeting inevitability. The tragedy is that Boba spends his entire life trying to live up to a myth that was already perfected. He's chasing a ghost he'll never catch. So when people argue that Boba Fett is the coolest bounty hunter in the galaxy, I can't help but laugh, because the coolest bounty hunter didn't need a reputation, or a spin-off, or decades of fandom to prove his worth. He just needed one lifetime. And his name was Jango.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars, And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.